I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. Popping to go, let it you know. I'm up to some. Heaven just gave me the green light to go. I'm up to some. Girl, I been knew that you been down. I'm up to some. It's always you and your friends round. I see you got the new kin style, pretty in style. Been thinking though, they heard my name round, they don't think I know. You girl in the back with a cloud chase. I guess for the night we'll keep it on. See, that's a great distraction, but you know I'm on a mission. I got 3 plus 2 to practice, almost like I'm placing chicken, cause I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. Any life make beats more. You control the shift like a keyboard. Hold on, wait, like a paradigm and keep running on like a marathon. Reach for your blacks like Farrakhan, but after that be the Vito. Told me that you wanna meet me, no. I don't wanna really be mean, no. But I've had better on the East Coast. Fuck you for green like CeeLo. All up the green like Chico. One up like CeeLo too. Guess Ben really got the keys on too, like. I'm up to something. I'm up to something. I'm up to something. I'm up to something. Baby, make me get it. It's gotta sit tight. Thinking that I'm right. Grab the money on the side. Baby, make me get right. She just gotta sit tight. Thinking that I'm right. Grab the money on the side. Baby, make me get right. They just gotta sit tight. Thinking that I'm right. Grab the money on the side. You always tell.
All right. Let's remove that so we can be live. What's up, good people? We are live. Welcome to another Wednesday night discussion with the guys from Porterhouse KC, you see us, and Morgan down there from Square One Business Services. We got another great lineup, as we normally do. This is a phenomenal. I'm just so excited that these guys and ladies decided to join us or accepted the invitation to join us. But before we get into all of that, let's go around and kind of introduce ourselves and tell everybody how you're feeling and all that good stuff. Let's start, since Edgar is like right down there. Let's start with Edgar.
All right, what's up, everybody? Thanks so much for having me. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Edgar Palacios. I run an organization called the Latinx Education Collaborative. I mean, we work on increasing the representation of Latinx education professionals in K-12. So we are about representation, we're about recruitment, we're about retention, and definitely loving on our educators, making sure that they understand how powerful they are and how important that they are to our students. You asked how I was feeling. I'm feeling tired. I'm exhausted.
Okay. I got it.
I was grumpy earlier today, but I'm less grumpy right now. So because I'm in the company of good people, and so I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for lifting up my spirits.
No
Awesome.
problem. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting. Shanelle.
Hey everybody, my name is Shanelle Smith. I am an educator, the associate principal at the African Center Prep at Southeast High School in Kansas City Public Schools. And I'm also the founder of Hbcu Walk and Billboard, which as of Monday is officially a 501c3 certified nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
So I'm super
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm feeling tired too, Edgar, but I mean, entrepreneurship and education, we keep pushing. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Catina, how are you?
I am good. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Catina Taylor. I'm a native Kansas Cityan. I am the founder of Dreams Consulting, which is a consulting firm. We specialize in education, business, and legal consulting services. So, certainly humbled and appreciative to be a part of this most esteemed panel. So I thank you guys for inviting me on. I might have bullied y'all just a little bit.
It's okay. All right. It's all right.
I was y'all got like the hottest thing going. So I'm trying to figure out how is it that I am not a part of this. I have to be. So,
we will take we will take the blame for that. So we know that you are one of the most forward entrepreneurs, socialpreneurs that are in the game right now, and that is on us. So we apologize. We're just glad that you accepted the invitation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Morgan, how you feeling?
I'm gonna say tired because that is a constant state with me right now. But at the same time, thriving, finding ways to reach new people. We get people from the wilds of Illinois tapping in now, and that's a beautiful thing, right? Like, we are living a different life, and I'm here for that part of it. Everybody, I'm Morgan from Mid-Continent Public Library, Square One Small Business Services team. We're all about economic empowerment and how we can make just the receiving of information more accessible.
Dope. Sharon, what you think?
What's going on? Sharon Thompson, the other co-founder of the Porterhouse KC. Just here, I'm glad to be a part of this, to bring some elite folks about education, HBCUs, and man, we about to have fun tonight. About to learn, knock out some gems, give you some gems about what's going on, and we about to give out some shout outs here pretty soon, and it's gonna be dope.
Absolutely. Dan Smith, like Sharon said, the other side of Porterhouse KC. We started this organization about 4 years ago to help bridge gaps in entrepreneurship. And we started this show along with Morgan because we wanted to make sure that we're staying forward. We are having the discussions that need to be had and connecting people with conversations that they need to be a part of. So we're excited that everybody every week, man, we like Morgan normally says this, but I'll say it this time. I'm surprised that so many people accept these invitations because I know that they could be anywhere in the world, but they decided to be here with us tonight. That's including the people that's tuning in. So we appreciate all of you guys. Yeah, and I was tired too, but I got a big cup of coffee over here that is gonna help me out. So I'm good.
You are always slugging coffee. Like it's 6 o'clock in the evening. What in the world?
That's the best time.
You know what? It's a thing. I don't know. It's a thing. It's true. And I will sleep well too. It's okay. It's all good.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. Hey, if anybody's repping, I see Shanelle repping down there, and I know I see Morgan's repping something, and Ron got something on too. So I want to let's rep what we got on right now. I got my hoodie on. I turned the AC up a little bit so I don't sweat too much because I got a hoodie.
That's what I was about to say.
Look, wait, was I not informed that there was a dress code? Y'all just gonna do me like that? Like, what is happening right now?
You know what? I gotta say, dress codes are oppressive, so I don't buy into them. You gotta start there.
There you go.
As we are. You know what I'm saying?
We'll take it. Come as you are. Come as you are. Morgan, what you got on? What shirt is that?
I've got Casey Pinoy. So Casey Pinoy is an authentic Filipino restaurant in the West Bottoms right now, doing a really awesome little cocktail program, all from the flavors of the Philippines. Check this out, but here's the deal. Chrissy's from New York. So if you walk in there asking for lumpia, she might hit you. This is her grandma's recipe book, and she's not doing Americanized Filipino food. This is grandma's Filipino food. So check her out, Cocktails to Go. She's just got her empanadas are like, yeah, it's amazing.
All right. And Shanelle, I know we're gonna talk a little bit more about this a little later on, but what's your shirt? What you got going on? What's that say?
So I'm representing HBCU Walking Billboard. It's basically just like a t-shirt campaign to promote awareness of historically Black colleges and universities, but we'll dive more into that later, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And Sharon, I think you repping the Porterhouse KC over there.
Yep, Porterhouse KC.
Yeah, buddy. And I got that support Black Colleges hoodie again. And I won't call out Edgar and Catina for not having anything, because like you said, this is not, we don't do that around here. So logo is intact. There you go. I love it.
I don't need to wear
I have a dream shirt. I do. And from now on, I'm just gonna be prepared no matter what I do. I want to kind of get cute with y'all. I want it to be all, beautified. And
right.
You cute.
Hey, so I am about to add Tovah. Tovah, there she is.
Hey.
Royale Cohesive Network.
Hi, everybody.
What's up? So we just did our little introductions really quick. If you don't mind, you are the last person. If you don't mind, introduce yourself and organization you represent and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on today and allowing me to come in a little late. My name is Tovah Taylor. I am a Kansas City native, an entrepreneur, a wife, a mother, and a community builder that co-facilitates Royal Cohesive Network with my 11-year-old son, Matt Tanner, also known as Royal Boy Blue. For those of you who don't know, Royal Cohesive Network is a nonprofit organization that addresses the achievement gap and emerging needs of young people who live in Kansas City urban core through collective work and great intent to develop a avenue for you to visualize and mobilize tools taught through various programs that we offer, which are entrepreneurship, literacy, gardening, cooking, and homeschool education.
Dope. And are you representing your organization? Is that the T-shirt you have on right now? Is that Royale Cohesive Network? I can't see.
Yeah.
It is.
I think a memo did go out. I'm just gonna be offended right now.
I'm just saying 4 out of the 6 representing. So I just let you know. Hey, so
Edgar, I think they setting us up.
I'll say something because the other memo that didn't go out was the fact that you just celebrated a birthday, and so I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that you are now 20, 26, 27?
Yeah, and holding. Whichever one you want to choose, and holding.
And holding.
Thank you so much for that acknowledgement. I appreciate it.
Happy birthday.
Dan just celebrated a birthday.
Hey,
really? Yep. The 20th, representing Kansas, representing.
You know it, yes. Those water signs. Thank you, Matt. I see that comment. I appreciate you.
Hey, really quick. So for all everybody that's tuned in right now, if you would, we can see some of you guys that are tuned in, but we don't know who all is watching. So if you would just throw a comment out there, throw a thumbs up, do a high five, do a hand raise, whatever that is, or surprise sign, whatever you want to do, or emoji. Go ahead, shout us, or throw some love, or whatever you want to call it. I see that Kristen May tapped in. We see Kiana. Kiana actually says she wants to tap in with Shanelle, so with her show. So that email address is there. So Shanelle, you can email Kiana if you can. Miss Peters is there. Look, Matt Zig tapped in to say happy birthday. So that's dope. So let's get into our shout outs. I'm gonna go first this time. And normally I try to see Linda from Score just tapped in. What's up, Linda? Hey, I want to say one thing really quick before I get on the shout outs. Kristen May is going. I want to shout Kristen out. She is so dope. So I know Kristen from back in high school. Kristen was and is one of the best ballers to come out of the city of Kansas City, out of Lincoln High School. So I know a couple people on here went to Lincoln High School. So represent.
That's my best friend. That's my best friend, or whatever.
There you go. All right, so shout out. I'm gonna go first because Sharana always normally takes them off. So I want to shout out my wife, just for being my wife and doing her thing. You know what I mean? So Abdul Rashid, I want to shout him out. He's actually doing some internships with this organization. So look up Abdul Rashid on his Facebook page. Check out what he's doing. Eugene James, there's a lawn. He just posted today or yesterday maybe a lawn care example. He rode by a hotel, saw a lady that was doing a short story. Saw a lady that was trimming her hedges or something like that outside the hotel. He didn't know who she was. She looks like she needed some help. He has a lawn care business. He decided, the guy put it on his heart to just stop and try to help her out because it was hot outside. He saw her struggling. So he got out and started helping her. And he know that she was actually the regional director of the Comfort Inn Suites that he actually helped out. So she actually gave him a contract for multiple hotels based off of him just getting out his car and doing some free work for her, or just kind of random. So I wanted to shout him out and that story that he posted, because it is so legit. When you just have to put yourself out there, and when you do, sometimes things come back tenfold. So that happened. Joey Cuts, they had a great barbershop conversation the other night, so check them out. Square One Business Services, just for being what you are. You guys are dope. The squad is dope. Morgan is dope. Chris Evans, T-shirt King, Kings Baseball. They won another tournament.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, King.
I was down there. I went down there to watch baseball. I was down there just to do a getaway, but it was dope that they were down there and they won. Kaufman Foundation for doing what they do. Chess Inc. for doing what they do in our relationship and our partnership with them. And then also shout out to the Porterhouse KC curriculum, our class, our cohort that is currently in session. They rocking and rolling. So that's my shout outs. Next.
Good,
who's
man.
next?
You almost took almost all mine.
Good.
But I still got
good.
I'm gonna go ahead. I like to give a shout out to my wife, Lauren Thompson, with Amethyst Place. It's pretty dope. Chris Good, Hurston Fells, TJ, Bam Keith. He did the song that was on our intro. Kevin Manning. Let's see, Kiana. Busy Bitten with the 816 Day. That's coming up. Tyrone Gathers, Deanna. The libraries, writers, teachers. I like to give a shout out to Earl Watson and Kiera. And that's my shout outs for this week.
Dope.
Oh, and Marlon Whitfield. He's doing some big things. Gentleman Club. Yeah. It's dope. Check him out.
St. Louis representing.
Yeah. That's it.
Who's next? Morgan, you gonna go next? I mean, you're next right here. So I mean, you might as well.
Do that. I found a Facebook group I hadn't joined yet. So it's called KC Boss Babes. And usually when anybody brings me a business group that's got like a bright pink kissy face on it or a high heel in the logo, I'm like, no, this offends my feminist sentiments. I will not join. But this one I was like, well, that's kind of a cool name. I'll check it out. And Antoinette gave me the referral to it, and she was like, I think this is what you're looking for. And I'll be damned, it is what I'm looking for. They are having fantastic conversations on there in a just like nobody's watching kind of way, because sometimes you use big words because you think somebody's watching you, and they're just like, no, this is what I'm seeing right now. Do you see it? Do you have something for me? It's all over the place, and I love it. So there is really good stuff to be had out there right now on Facebook. You just have to like unfollow your dad first so you can see what's available. Sometimes you have to unfollow your dad. You know, it's a thing. So that's a shout out this week.
There you go. Shanelle, you got any shout outs?
All right, so it's my turn. I'm going to start by shouting out Team Smith, my whole squad, my whole family. After that, I would be remiss if I didn't say what's up to my whole Southeast family. Shout out to the night. You guys are beautiful, and I miss you all. I want to shout out Shanita Washington. She's a photographer with Golden Image Photography. She is an entrepreneur who is really out here doing great work and offering services to people at really affordable rates. I also want to give a shout out to Stephen E. Smith and Rodney Smith with Sophic Solutions. They are two really big advocates for HBCUs. Rodney used to actually work at Fisk and helped me with my initial journey there. I also want to give a shout out to my homeboy Arthur Clayton, who recently launched his Christian apparel line, After God's Heart. Like him on Facebook, follow him on Instagram. His apparel is dope. He sends out daily messages and blog updates, just really encouraging stuff. I share it pretty often, and he's off to a great start. So anybody that can support him, please do, because he's pretty dope. And then finally, I have to shout out King Life, the King organization, Chris Evans and the whole squad, all the coaches. One of the things that I want to really point out about the King's organization is that it's a competitive baseball league, and the fees are super affordable by comparison to the other leagues around the city. But the biggest thing is that those coaches do it volunteer. So they all work full time. They come after work, before work, sometimes during work, because tournaments have been starting on Friday mornings for whatever reason. Shout out to the tournament organizers. But beyond that, I want to make it really plain that like these young men walk onto baseball diamonds, and oftentimes they are the only people of color there. So they play through sometimes things that they shouldn't have to see or witness at such a young age. But on the flip side to that, for them to be such a powerful and positive representation, every time we step onto the diamond, I'm proud of those boys. So I gotta give that one up.
So dope. Edgar. So really quick before Edgar goes and gives his shout outs, I just want to remind everybody, if you don't create a watch party, if you're watching and you want to share, just share it regularly so we can actually see comments and all that good stuff that come in. Because if you do a separate watch party, we're not able to see those comments. So we're not ignoring you. If you had any comments or questions, we just can't see them. So if you're on the Porterhouse KC main Facebook page, we'll be able to see everything that comes through. And I just wanted to say that really quick. Edgar, what you got?
I mean, there's a lot of people to shout out. First and foremost, I have to shout out Laura Palacios. I am her husband. And so I celebrate that. Shout out. I see a lot of people in the comments that I absolutely love and keep near my heart. So I see Susana Elizarras, who is our chief community officer at the LEC. I see Deanna Munoz, who I work with on Latino Arts Foundation. I see Lori Peters. I see who else is out there? Matt, Kiana, of course. Shout out to those folks. Thanks for joining us. Shout out to Catina. Shout out to Cornell Ellis. Shout out to Trinity Davis. Shout out to Cecilia Bell Patton. Shout out to the coalition crew. Shout out to the folks doing the work. Hurston, absolutely. I echo that shout out. There's a lot of other people I love. Oh, you know what? Shout out to Randy Lopez for becoming the first Latino school board president at Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools.
Hey.
And, you know, a lot of our community is actually elevating themselves. So I'm thinking about Delia Perez Olorzano, who just got promoted. I'm thinking about Jackie Rodriguez, who also just got promoted. And so there's a lot of good energy out there. But definitely, last but definitely not least, shout out to our educators, because they are going through some incredibly interesting and somewhat difficult times, and a lot of them are handling it the best they can and doing a phenomenal job with that. So sending my love and my energy to all of our educators doing the work today.
Dope. And shout out to the husband and wives of those educators too, because they get I'm just talking trash. Definitely. Katina, what you think?
All right, so I'm going to take a little turn a little bit. So first and foremost, of course, I acknowledge the Taylor crew and my husband, wherever you are in the universe, as you come to me. He says, y'all doing spouses. Yes. Shout out before you even get here. The Harbor clan, that is my son and his children. So I have 3 grands for sure, my grand dudes and my grand diva. But I want to also shout out one of our ancestors, or someone that just became one of our ancestors, and that's Rosa James here in Kansas City. For those that know, her impact, her legacy is great, and I would be remiss on today if I did not acknowledge all the wisdom, all of the correction that she gave to many of us throughout this city. When we got out of a line, she was quick and easy to pull us back. Of course, good trouble. John Lewis, who we just lost as well. And then someone that you guys may not know, but her name was Sister Shariki. And Sister Shariki was in Kansas City for many years, for as long as I can remember. She ran a not so big, but an impactful radio show. And she, upon her retirement, repatriated to Ghana. And she has also gained her wings and transitioned as well. So those are my shout outs. Those are the elders, now our ancestors, our angels, that will continue to be with us, heart, mind, soul, spirit. They will live on through all of the work that we do. So I wanted to acknowledge them. Those are my shout outs for the day.
I love it. And then I was actually about to go to Tovah. It looks like maybe her connection had. So if she comes back on, we will go back to Tovah, because I want to hear. She said she noted too that she's experiencing some stuff. So hopefully she pops back in really quick. Want to acknowledge some of the folks like Edgar alluded to that was in the comments. Therese is in there. Annette Jones, Daniel Holiday, Erica Freeman, Deanna Munoz. What up? Who else is in here? Matt, obviously we shouted Matt out. The wife, Aisha, she put a one of those big eye, because when I said the husbands and wives of the educators, so I know that's why she did that. But it's all right. It's okay. You know, Hurston is in the live. I like to say in the building. You know, like we're in the building, but you know, not really. I mean, you are in a building of some sort.
We in the house.
I can't say that.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere. So, like I said, if Tovah taps back in, we will add her, get her shout outs, because I want to definitely get those as well. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, we kind of introduced this thing called flowers last week, because we are all out here working in different capacity, really kind of pushing the needle and making things happen. But I don't know how often we are able to just kind of set and give flowers, right? Give appreciation to the folks that are out here really doing some hard work, and for the folks that are actually doing the work to sit there and get the flowers, right? Because we're so focused on working so hard. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, and I'm going to give it to you, but Morgan and Ryan, feel free to definitely chime in if you want to. But Catina, Edgar, and Shanelle, I just want to let you guys know that not only do I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, but the community appreciates the work that you guys are doing. You are the reason why things are changing in our communities, right? You are the reason why, Shanelle, the reason why folks are looking at HBCUs that probably wouldn't look at HBCU or even know what an HBCU is, right? Because of the work that you're doing, it's exposing what HBCUs are and what they do. My wife, she has a ton of Bethune-Cookman gear. She got us the HBCU T-shirts. My wife is a graduate of an HBCU and really and proud of it. And I know we're going to talk about it a little later, but I just definitely want to give you those flowers and give you that shout out. Edgar, the things that you're doing in the education community and not necessarily for kids, but for the teachers and educators that are out there, dude, like that goes so far. Like my wife, we had these conversations, and I keep saying my wife because she's an educator, right? But we have conversations about, you know, my wife actually becoming a principal and like her going beyond just the classroom, right? Talking in the classroom. And so like what you're doing to support educators just goes beyond supporting 18 kids in a classroom or 19 kids in a classroom. It actually supports schools, right? Like literally schools of kids, and the time is now, right? Like we can't wait to get quality education for kids, right? And what you're doing is pushing that needle and pushing that envelope to ensure that those things are happening now. So we appreciate you. And Catina, and I know that you're working in neighborhoods, you're working in like so many areas, dude. So like make changes, like it's like ridiculous, right? But you're making change. Like we went to the National Museum, African American Museum down in DC, right? We went there last year. We got to tour around, and we got to see this piece with Bethune-Cookman, right? Mary Bethune, and I didn't know the things that she had done. She started a hospital because the kids at her school weren't getting the proper health care that they needed. I look at you the same way. Like if you see a problem, you are making wave and change in those areas that you see problems. So I just, like I said, again, I wanted to give you guys flowers for doing what you do and continue to stay forward. So we appreciate you. The community appreciates you. So keep rocking. Anything we could do to help support that, just obviously just let us know. So that's my flowers.
So
cool.
So Dan made that tough for me. Like, I just want to say all of that, right? What he just said and add that, right? But yes, thank you, Shanelle. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Catina and Tovah whenever she come back. And she knows right there. What's up, Tovah? Yeah, like when I first learned about HBCUs, I learned actually from Different World. I even didn't know about HBCUs. And Different World is a old show. Look it up, YouTube it if you don't know about it. But that's how I found out about HBCUs. And then, like now, I wish that it would be something to represent HBCUs as far as shows goes. If some way, somehow, it will be introduced, it will be super dope. But that's my spiel. But I'm gonna go ahead and let Tovah do her shout outs if she can.
Yeah, so Tovah, we were just about to get to you on shout outs, and then you disappeared on us for a second. So I want to definitely make sure we get time to shout some folks out, because I know you see a lot of folks doing some really good things in the community, and so you got a few shout outs to throw out there.
Well, I'm gonna keep mine short and simple. I'm gonna shout out my family for holding Royal Cohesive Network down and always being a motivator and behind, everything that we do. And then also, I want to shout out Juneteenth. Juneteenth has been putting in work for the past month straight. She always does a lot, but she's just really been doing amazing work virtually, in person. And so shout out to Juneteenth, Nikita Peterson.
Dope. And Tovah, I'm giving you flowers too. You're kind of choppy, so I'm not sure if you hear us or hear me well, but you are changing the narrative of what entrepreneurship and independent minds really mean and really are in our community. And so I want to give you some flowers too, because you're doing a phenomenal job out in this community. And I know you don't really need it, you don't really want it as much, but I'm just telling you anyway that you are doing a phenomenal job, and keep up the good work, and whatever we could do to help support, you got us. So I'm just letting you know.
It definitely start with the youth, and Tovah is definitely an inspiration that you start entrepreneurship with the youth at an early age. Is very, very, very important.
All right, so my publicist said that we need to start getting to the questions. She commented and she let me know, AK, my wife, she said we going too far, too long. But I just want to shout you all out. I'm just letting you know. And then Shanelle, you got a really cool shout out there. Somebody said, I'm truly thankful and honored to have a great caring teacher that Shanelle Smith was. To me and my classmates, I wouldn't even known anything about HBCUs, nor would I have attended Langston University without your help. Giving you flowers too. So it's pretty dope.
If I could just chime in there real quick. So I see that is General nicknamed Chiefy. He was one of my first babies at Imagine Renaissance Academy, and he's actually running for what is it called? 7th Ward.
Alderman?
Yes, Alderman. So he's actually a political candidate, and my name is Shanelle Smith, and I endorse that candidate. Great.
Hey,
is he locally, Chanel?
Hey,
Is he local?
Yes.
Huh? Oh.
Man.
This is a non-political platform too, so I just want to let you know. I just want to throw that out there. You know, so just it's cool. You can support. It's all good. So Morgan, what you got? I think you got some questions for us, right?
Yeah, sorry, I got really caught up in that for a second. Let me get my question there. What were you all working on prior to COVID-19, and how did you pivot when COVID-19 hit? And we're going to ask you later, like, where you're at now. But for this first question, what were you in the middle of, and then how did you pivot yourself when it hit?
I'll start. I was actually so I do consultant work. So I was in the process of wrapping up or getting toward the end of a contract with one of our local charter schools. They had a team of teachers that were very, very, very early in their careers, and all of them were on the same team. So as you can imagine, and as Ms. Smith will be able to tell you, that the administration in buildings oftentimes are so caught up with other tasks that they really can't provide the coaching and support and systems that those early career teachers need. So I was contracted. I was in the process of coaching those teachers and really building their confidence and giving them tools and resources and things like that so that they could serve their students the best they could. So, of course, COVID hit. Spring break happened. So I actually took on the students for a particular teacher. And then I started crafting content to support parents who now found themselves educating their children at home. So 3 days a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was cranking out content because I saw it and I knew if I were a parent suddenly thrust into that position, what I would need and the support. So that's how I was able to pivot and continue on.
That's dope. I love that.
Definitely.
I love that. Edgar, what you think?
So what I was working pre-COVID-19, I'm still working on after the fact. And I think one thing that I've been really concentrated on is really continue to build community within our network of Latinx educators and our network of education professionals. And so one thing that I've actually really enjoyed about COVID-19 is that the Zoom link or however you choose to connect virtually allows you to create space. Chris, I love you, so I appreciate that comment. Thanks so much for being here and joining us. And so for us, it's really about how do we hold space for each other virtually while we can't be in person? How do we still elevate the representation of Latinx folks in these conversations? And so we pivoted, we went virtual, we live streamed, we started experimenting with all these things. And it's been incredibly awesome to just be able to connect with folks and to share our mission, the work that we're doing. And find new supporters, find new folks who are in need of community and be able to provide that in a very different way. I think for us, it's also holding space for teachers. I think this is, again, a really complicated and difficult time for a lot of folks. And so people need a place to go and talk about these things and feel like they're a part of a safe community where the judgment is not necessarily going to be there, but also just the support. From my perspective, you find that a lot of Latinx teachers are isolated within their own buildings, are isolated within their own districts. They may be the only ones in the communities that they are. And so for us to be able to bring those folks together, to commiserate, to share resources, to share knowledge and to be in community is so important. So we're continuing to figure that out. And we're learning along the way. I think that's just part of, I will say this, I don't think prior to COVID-19, we would have obviously leaned in heavily into the virtual space. But that was a new opportunity, and it's been surprisingly fun and productive.
Okay, awesome. Now, what you think?
Before COVID hit, I was actually just, administrating or whatever, just being a principal, basically, day in and day out. One of the big things that we were working on, we're in the process of revitalizing the African Center Prep program at the upper school. And so we were working on a one-day retreat for our scholars, and we had some really meaty things. Shout out to Yamina Muhammad, Mama Muhammad. Things were going really well. We partnered with some community resources. Arts Tech was going to help us out. And the pivot there was once COVID hit, honestly, the first thing I did, because we got that day prior to spring break off, I rested. I was tired. And when you're tired and you're trying to fill all the spaces, like I was principal / mama and all the other things at work, and then wife and real mama here at home, and then still trying to have my footprint in the community to do the purpose work that I feel like the Most High put me here for. I was depleted. And so I actually rested. COVID first hit, my pivot was to sit down somewhere. And I did that. And I think that because I did that, I was able to hear just a little more clearly, not all the way clear because I don't sit still long, but I was able to hear just a little more clearly what my next steps were. And so it was in this time that I've been able to establish the nonprofit exemption for HBCU Walking Billboard, to create the website, and to really, really pivot with the direction of my husband to not give up on our send-off that we do every year, but to actually welcome that into this virtual space as well. So it's been a gift and a burden at the same time, a blessing and a burden.
Oh yeah, a lot of work.
So what's dope about all three of you guys' answers to that question. One, Catina found another opportunity to dive in more, to help in a different manner. Edgar stayed forward in the things that he was doing, and Shanelle said, "Hey, this gives me a time to sit back, think, rest, and get prepared for the next step or the next phase," which is dope. And like we saw a lot of comments earlier on where folks were saying like, this is the time. If you're not doing things now, if you're not jumping in right now, then you're doing yourself a disservice and all this other stuff. There were multiple ways to figure this thing out. You know what I mean? There were multiple ways to get through this, and not everybody does it the same way. And so what you guys just showed is an example of how different professionals in different situations handled this initial surge, and then how going forward you guys are figuring it out. I mean, I just thought that was dope. Really dope representation of that.
Dope.
More, what you think?
I come at it from a slightly different perspective. Because I think that what I'm seeing in the small business community right now, with people not applying for the grants that are available and people choosing not to reach out for help when they needed to pivot with their businesses. I love that all three of you handled it in a different way, but I think the key point here is that Shanelle rested and then acted. She didn't just keep resting. She did. She did self-awareness and was like, okay, all right, now I'm recharged and I'm ready to go again, and I'm ready to make a plan and act on it. And I worry about us sometimes because right now we're in this crisis and people have crisis brain, but there comes a point in time where you have to get a hold of that crisis brain. And you got to take it, and you got to look for opportunity, and you got to ask for help if you need it. But we've got a whole lot of people right now leaving money on the table that have not shifted out of that. Like, I feel like we just need, maybe the library needs to give Catina absolutely all of the money that we have and just be like, could you just talk to the people about how to take care of themselves so that then they can take care of their business or their nonprofit or whatever it is. Because, man, now's the time to act.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Catina, once you get all that money, feel free to.
You already know you part of the
coalition.
You already know I'm sharing with you.
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, like Morgan is absolutely right. Like I know that there was a lot of, ebb and flow and conversation around should you, shouldn't you. If this has taught anybody anything, it should be that we have to position ourselves for a time such as this. And we weren't getting that information, that messaging, the resources to build our capacity so that if in fact something like this were to occur, we could take advantage. I don't think it's that people are intentionally leaving money on the table, but when they haven't had access to the resources and the information they need to build their capacity and their businesses and position themselves, then this is what happens. And so it's unfortunate, but now they have what I consider time and space and opportunity through Square One, through a Catina, through a Chess, through a Porterhouse, through Kiona Sinks, through Dennis Carpenter, through a Chanel Smith, whomever is out there in your industry. You better go to them, and I'm telling you, a closed mouth don't get fed. You better ask them something, and something quick, so that you, if something like this happens or we continue on long term, you are not left wondering what happened and trying to figure out how you're going to eat and be on purpose and make revenue. Like, you got to do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
We Sharon and I, we don't have a problem asking. We get a lot of no's. Okay, good. We accept them when we keep rocking.
Yeah.
So that's dope.
But did we give y'all flowers? Did we give y'all flowers? Did we give y'all shout outs? Because what I saw was you pivoted immediately as Porterhouse and immediately started providing information and resources to those that wanted to apply for those PPP funds and all of the funding that was becoming available, and talking about, if you couldn't, what else could you do, and what were the alternatives and the creative ways to stay afloat during this pandemic. So, just like you give flowers and shout outs, we should be doing that to you all as well, because you're an asset to our community. And even if, you don't see me a lot, understand I'm watching, I'm observing, because I'm really always like, who's really about the business of the people in this city? And so I can't say that Porterhouse, I can't say Mid-Continent Public Library and the Square One team, they are about the business of small businesses and entrepreneurs in this city. And we appreciate you.
Most definitely.
So I guess we got to take our advice and we got to accept it. So thank you so much. We appreciate that. Absolutely, 100%. Morgan, you got my favorite question.
I know you gave me this question, but here we go.
So it's my favorite one.
If you could change one thing about the Black community, what would it be and why?
So we had to pivot to that. Black and brown communities in education. If you had that magic wand, what would it be? What would it be? Shanelle, what you think?
I think my struggle is narrowing it down to one. I'm gonna just keep
definitely hard.
I'm gonna keep that a band. Like, that's hard. One, if I had to land on one, I'm gonna have to go ahead and align with my mission. The one thing that I would probably change is the misnomer about college in general. Sometimes I think that in our community, the idea of college is kind of one-sided. The thought is that you have to go immediately. The thought is that you have to go here or there, or the thought is even that you have to go. But for me personally, what I've noticed being in education for the last 16 years is that oftentimes when the college conversation is occurring, historically Black colleges and universities are not at the forefront. And for me, that's problematic. The big reason that is problematic is because there was once a time historically when these were the only institutions whose doors were open to us. And so for us to then find it appropriate to shun those schools is problematic in and of itself. But then the wondering of where that thinking comes from. And we know that children don't determine their own opinions and mindsets. These are things that are taught to them. And so making astute, accurate, and real African-American history a part of curriculum is part of the way you change the way that Black children view themselves. Because really what a student says when they say, I don't want to go to a HBCU because I don't want to be around all Black people, that's a symbol of them not necessarily loving or having positive self-identity. They're not feeling themselves. So that is the biggest overturn to me when we think about the educational structure and how it is actually designed without my babies in mind. They're not thinking of that. Nobody was thinking about my kids when they designed the American educational system. No textbook thinking about them. No curricular development is thinking about them. They are not at the front of that conversation. What HBCU Walking Billboard allows me to do is to remind them that just because the history is printed don't make it accurate. And so I get to give them a different lens and give them a different approach to what it looks like to reconsider. Because the other part to this too, and then I'm gonna be quiet. It's hard to picture yourself in a place where you're not represented. So of course, I'm not going to think that college is a place for me if when I see college advertisements, when I see college graduates, when I see anything affiliated with post-secondary education, people don't look like me. And that's where HBCUs come in, because it's a sea of people that look like you. They might not think like you. They definitely aren't going to be from the same places as you. But this thought that diversity is only limited to ethnicity or gender is wrong. People can look exactly the same and be completely diverse in all ways. And so I promote HBCUs from that vein. And that would be my overhaul, for them to learn accurate African-American history and therefore have a sense of pride in themselves that says, regardless of if I choose a HBCU or not, what I won't do is think that those institutions offer a subpar education.
Dope.
I love that. Love that. Edgar, what you think? I know we got a lot of comments that came in too. And you know, I like to address the comments, but I definitely want to make sure that we get our guest perspective on the questions. So Monica said changing the funding formula to more equitably distribute resources to schools. Hurston said to stop comparing tragedy and traumas and unite to overcome our shared challenges. Mike Watson tapped in and said, how do we impact the curriculum as educators and administrators in our public schools before we get to an HBCU? Kevin said, sadly, HBCU's value drop more each year until we reinvest into the system. It defeats the purpose of going. And then Catina obviously typed in and said, we need to write the curriculum and teach it in our homes before our kids are drawn to the door of institutions. And I was addressing Mike Watson's comment or question. And Kevin went to a HBCU too. Kevin Manning went to Grambling. So he's coming from that perspective as well. So yeah, Edgar, what you think? Well, in your estimation or your magic bag, if you pulled out, what would you change in the Black and brown communities of education, and why?
So that's a difficult question because I have a completely different perspective on that. One, I don't think I would change anything about our communities because I tend to see our communities from a place of asset, and I believe that it is more important that we center our experiences and our voices as who we are as people, versus change. Like what we need to be changing are the systems that are currently instituted and in place, because we're not designed with us in mind, first and foremost. And so the way that I believe we do this is by centering our experiences and by talking and leaning from that perspective and by being proud of who we are. Period. I understand there's a lot of diversity in our communities. There's a lot of differentiation of thought, and we don't all agree. And you know, I hear this I hear it said time again, like not all kinfolk or not all skinfolk are kinfolk, right? And so the reality is we have a lot of internal things that we need to have in conversation, hold each other close in and call in. But I am, you know, I don't like to position our communities as from a place of deficit or from a place that we need anything else. I really like to position the fact that, you know what, we know what the hell we're doing. We just need the opportunity. We don't even like. We just need the space to be who we are and live in our magic as Black and brown people, without having other folks come in and tell us what we're doing wrong.
Right.
So those are kind of my thoughts. From an education perspective, representation absolutely matters. We absolutely need more Black and brown folks in classrooms. We need them in at the administration level. We need them on school boards. We need them on committees. We need our folks to show up, even in spite of the many ways that our communities are prevented from showing up.
Right.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Representation matters. I mean, it just does. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's not a monolith. There's not one way or two or three different ways to make the changes that you want to see, but you have to have the people in place to be able to even have a conversation about change. So I love that, and I love how that representation matters. Catina, what's your thoughts? Did you see that question that Beth put out there? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Like it's needed and necessary, but if we are looking for white supremacist culture to embrace or engage our students in abolitionist education or self-determined learning, you're going to continue to wait. It will never happen because their business is to maintain power and control of the people that they are attempting to oppress. So, inherent in the question that was asked, and I love you all, I was going to give the same pushback that Edgar gave, and I'm going to be very pointed about it, that inherent in that question is an assumption that something needs to be changed about Black and brown people in our communities, and it doesn't. That's not to say that we don't have our own problems and issues and things like that. We do. However, they are a direct result, and they show up because of the trauma, the oppression, the characteristics that have been placed upon us by being into this society and this culture that is driven by white supremacy and has been for hundreds of years. So inherent in that question is an assumption that there is something that we need to change. We are who we are, and we are great, and we need to tap into that reservoir of greatness. We have too many examples, so many that we don't even know about, and the ones that we do, that we can shift our entire existence at any time if we tap into that power. So if I have to give an answer about changing something, that's what it is. Embracing our reservoir of greatness and acting with courage to design our own system, period. We have examples of that. I'm sorry, you guys, we have examples of that, and we can do that. I do not understand, nor will I ever understand and embrace the fact that we are consistently begging our oppressor for equality and equity when they have told us for hundreds of years that that is not in their best interest and they're not going to do it. Stop it. If you are doing the same thing, expecting different results, then what does that say about you? And I, for one, am not insane. So I refuse to do that. Create the systems that work for us, period. So I'm passionate. I'm not upset, just for those of you that don't know me. But it's real talk, and we don't have time. Our children are not widgets, right? I have this cup here, it has a straw in it. If it is on the assembly line or the belt and it's getting made and it doesn't meet quality control standards, guess what? They toss it out. But my children, our children, cannot be tossed away. Right. So we are past a state of emergency. And I believe that the universe, our creator, the Most High, however you tap into it, Eve, and anybody that knows me knows what I've been talking about lately understands that. If you tap into that power, right, then we can do anything that we need to do. So let's just do it.
So to know me is to know that I'm a push. And so one of the things I definitely agree that if we infer the question a certain way, it does assume many things. But what both you and Edgar have spoken to, Catina, is still an opportunity for change. And at the end of the day, whether that change is fueled by a positive outlook or a negative outlook, the opportunity is still there. And so I think that is probably the landing pad for all of the conversation that we're having in response to Morgan's question, is that there are lots of opportunities for us to shift, be it our thinking, be it our identities, whatever it is that we need to change in order to elevate our communities. The opportunity to change is still there.
So
that is so legit. I mean, a couple comments that came through. Ms. Peters said, I skipped Bible study tonight, but I'm at church and y'all are bringing it. So there you go. Chris Good says speak. Michael Watson says shift. Jay Allen said, this is our guy. He said, I'd love to have gone to HBCU, but never saw them at my inner city high school. And then we had Hurston that says HBCUs are some of the most diverse institutions in the country, ethnically, culturally, and subculturally. My professors were from everywhere on the globe: Nigeria, India, Pakistan, South Korea, to name a few. I love and am proud to be a graduate of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Aggie pride all day. That was a great poignant statement. So we appreciate that, Hurston, for sure. But everything that you guys are saying, man, like it all is relevant, right? Like you shouldn't have to apologize or to feel like you need to change who you are and what you are for the greater what is that? The greater view. You should be able to invite people into who you are and teach them who you are. And I think that's a part of what we're doing here too, is being able to do that, putting people on a platform to introduce people to something new, something that they might not have experienced in the past. That's what the relationship between ourselves and Square One Business Services, what Morgan is all about. Our purpose is to be able to bring together cultures to teach folks or let them experience something that, like Catina said, I'm not mad, I'm not angry. This is just my passion, right? That is what it is, right? We're helping people understand who we are and where we come from and the way we do things. And so I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys' passion about the topic.
Right.
So I know that we had a couple of, I want to skip this next question, Morgan, and go right into the one Sharon has, because I think this kind of leads into that conversation, what we were just saying. So Sharon, you want to pick up there?
Yeah, I will pick up.
Sorry, Morgan.
Ask, how do we encourage youth to dream big, allowing them to create pathways to ownership in addition to being employable?
Right. So how do we get beyond that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Catina.
So I think we first, as parents, as those that model for them, we have to dream big. We have to think critically. We have to model that. You can tell them all day long, but it starts at home with the families. You know, it used to be an old saying that the greatest number of dreams were in a graveyard because people didn't seek their dreams out before they died. They lived this whole life and then boom. So they have to see people that look like them in their communities, in their homes, going after their dreams. First and foremost, talking to them, asking them, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And let's map out a course for you to get there. And if you choose to change along the way, that's okay too. We're going to support that change. Exposure is key as well. Expose them, have these conversations, honor who they are. It is not our role to shape them or create them or turn them into something that we desire them to be. They come here with purpose. So our job is to just honor that purpose and give them room and space. Now, in structured environments and settings and things like that, we have a failed educational system, and we just need to acknowledge that and stop holding on to something that does not work. And that means that educators, administrators, district level officials, politicians, all of us need to first just acknowledge that. The first step in changing anything is to acknowledge the problem, right? So then once you acknowledge that, you have to stop holding on to your position in your check and getting in the way of these kids finding success. And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to sacrifice ourselves or lay down on our own swords for the next generation, but that's key. And then we have to work collaboratively. I didn't always work with Edgar. Like, we're real clear about that. We respect each other, we knew each other, but we didn't always work together. But at some point along the line, both of us understood, maybe me later, the necessity of collaborating with community resources and other institutions that provide real world application and opportunities for our kids to see beyond the four walls of a classroom. Why do we have four walls? Why is learning taking place in institutions and buildings that look like prisons anyway? Like, those are questions we need to ask. Why are we still relying on an agricultural calendar for school? Why do they have to go to school 7 or 8 hours a day? Why do they have to wait to graduate at 17? Some already before that. We've seen lived examples of that. So we need to be innovative and critically thinking ourselves so that we give our kids permission to do the same thing.
Right.
I love that. Edgar, what do you think?
I have a couple of thoughts. First and foremost, while Catina and I may have not worked together all the time, I think we were absolutely supportive of each other's efforts. And we also want to get out the way, right? Like, I think that's also important to understand. Like, sometimes you have to step out of the way. And so I'll tie that back into students. But can you repeat the second half of the question? You talked about the employability of students.
Yeah, allowing, so I'm just repeat it. How do we encourage youth to dream big, allowing them to create pathways to ownership in addition to being employable?
So I think of some current initiatives that are appearing that are designed. There's a conversation right now in the community around college versus like what do you call those?
Like trade or short term
or short terms or whatever.
Yeah.
Industry ready credentials.
Yes, industry ready credentials, market value assets. One of my biggest concerns with that is who are they pushing into those roles? What do those kids look like? And how do we address the leadership gap in that space? So sometimes one thing that I worry about my community particularly is like, how do we create all the options and allow and direct our students for them to choose their options and make sure that they have an understanding of everything that's available. So I think about that a lot. I think, again, representation is so important. Kids have to see what they can be before it gets in there. And so we have a responsibility to be in their presence. We have a responsibility to talk and share what we know. And we also have a responsibility to allow them to actually be, to achieve their own destinies. I think a lot of the answers, I think adults actually screw up a lot of things for kids, period. And so if adults can get out of the way and let kids be kids and grow into who they become and support them along the way, like, I'm not worried about them. I really worry more about the adults in the room. And sometimes the lack of recognition of the power and influence and gatekeeping that we have that sometimes prevents our students from achieving their fullest dreams. And so I think that's important. I'm a big advocate for, an allyship and co-conspiratorship and that kind of stuff. Like, create the platform, get out the way.
Yeah.
I love it. I just want to point out to their Quan Jay Allen. He said, put them in an environment to be exposed to it. It starts in the household and in your community. I want to say that Jay is actually doing, and that's going to be a part of this question too. And we like to get your first part, but what are you specifically doing to allow space for this? So I wanted to point out, Jay, his son, he has him in hockey, in lacrosse, boxing. He's bought him some DJ equipment to learn how to, so anything that his son shows some type of interest in, he is actually out there exposing his son to these different things to see what his son actually ends up developing a passion and love for. So, that is a part of this question as well, the equation as well. We talked about actually putting them the opportunities in front of them. So, Shanelle, what's your thoughts on that?
Woo! Okay, so the questions are loaded. Let me just start there. Like, trying to narrow my response is very difficult. And I taught English, we wordy and ambiguous. Right. So the place I'll start is when we think about teaching kids to dream big, that's something we don't have to teach them. We have to be intentional about not snatching the dream away, because they speak their dreams from as early as they're able to talk. I remember my now 8-year-old told me when he was 4, he wanted to be a pilot. I mean, it was never on my list of things I envision my son becoming. But if the man want to fly planes, I'm gonna let the man fly planes. In COVID, when we talk about the pivot, in COVID, I noticed that, with digital and virtual learning, the kids were getting done like that. I mean, it wasn't as time consuming, and it shouldn't be, because sitting idle and looking at a screen, it's not the same experience. But we took advantage of that opportunity for them to start learning about things they were interested in. So we have a bird feeder we just purchased because my youngest son is interested in birds all of a sudden. We planted some herbs. And then I really wish Tovah's technology was working, because she's a great resource when talking through these things, and how young people already have, like Catina said, the purpose inside of them, but they also already have the curiosity and the inquisition. They got the gifts and the talents. Another thing I'll add is, just as a parent, both of my sons now have their own nonprofit organization called Smith Boys Inc., because each of them started their own giving initiatives. And at their very young ages, they said, I want to. And I said, so let's. So that's the other part. If a kid says they want to do something, how do we encourage that part? The other piece to that, I want to give a huge shout out to Kirsten Brown over at Crossroads Upper School. She has a position, a real world coordinator or a real life coordinator. And this person's sole gig is to talk to the young people in her building, figure out what they want to do, and then connect them to resources in the community to allow them to do so. These young people are getting paid internships to go out and do stuff, and they're 14 and 15 years old. That is where dreaming big comes from. Dreaming big comes from me already having the dream, but then me having somebody with the power and authority, i.e. an adult, to believe in my dream and then guide me toward the path to get there. And then the last thing I'll add is that when we talk about industry-ready credentials, again, it's one of those asset deficit viewpoints. College is expensive. And so if there is a way for our students to acquire an industry-ready credential prior to exiting high school, that puts them in position to pay the tab. So shout out to KCPS. Our career and technical education program is moving leaps and bounds, having people come out of there with their EMT, cosmetology license. We got digital programming now, graphic design, auto body and collision. And when I think about the hustle at a HBCU, I did hair on the side. That was my hustle, but I wasn't licensed. If I were licensed, I could have got more clientele and I could have charged more. So thinking through that part too, of having students and young people start to understand the value of $1 before they even make one, because they make it and it burns a hole in their pocket. But then what are all the different ways that I can acquire that without depleting myself, but really living in my true purpose or my passion? I didn't learn about multiple streams of income until I was 30. My sons know about multiple streams of income at 8 and 12. And so that's the game, like putting them on really early, not crushing their dreams, and then giving them the avenues to get there.
Yes.
Exactly. So let me Hurston and Matt. Hurston said we have to stop crushing dreams our young people tell us that they're interested in because we don't understand their dreams. I've had countless young people share with me swift discouragement that they received from their elders when they shared what they wanted to do. Shunning gaming, art, content creation, a la YouTube, to name a few, because we don't understand those spaces, continue to lock us out of opportunities that we're creating many young millionaires void of melanin. Matt said systems that need to be in place, students outside of the 90 percentile, and that start with local businesses and entrepreneurs to give back and support their younger community members. Jay just said we as adults got to listen. He's a pilot. It's his life. Demetrius Joyner, I don't know if you guys know who Demetrius Joyner is, but Black Money Matters. I don't know if you've seen the Black Money Matters movement here in Kansas City. He is the initiator of that movement. So check Demetrius out if you get a chance. He's a dope guy, dope individual. And so Lena asked, what do parents who don't have a lot of money do to support their children's dreams and goals? I think Morgan probably has some feedback on that. What you think, Morgan? What can parents do that don't have a lot of money to support their children's dreams and goals?
I often, I'm going to give you a weird answer to this, Dan, because I know everybody wants me to say, go to the library. And that is a piece of that. That is definitely a piece of that. Probably multiple people on this panel have memories of picking out that VHS tape at the library or that particular book that you really liked. Definitely a piece of that. But I think the most important thing you can do when you don't have a lot of money is not to approach every conversation with your child through the frame of we don't have a lot of money. And that is hard. That is very, very challenging, but that is the thing you can do, because so many of these exploration activities, to give it a fancy name, that's really big, but these exploration activities don't have to be space camp. Mm-mm. They can be watching something on TV and then talking about it, and not just what's good about it, but what might be wrong with it too. Because your kids are seeing your life, and they're not talking to you about it necessarily, but they are absorbing it, and it's becoming their normal. So if everything in your life involves a discussion about we can't because we don't have, then that is what that imprints on them, and that becomes a template for their conversations for the rest of their life. So really, what can we do? Because if you like architecture, you can walk around Union Station for free. If you like architecture, we can get on YouTube and look at architects. And we can be really choosy with some time. And I know you don't have any time. But if you can squeeze together some time and look for some resources on this, there is so much available to you for free if you have the time to invest in the search. And really, that search could be on Google. So yes, go to the library, get the robotics kits, do it. But also reframe that conversation you're going to have and be really careful with it.
Yep. I'd like to answer a question too, or say it simple, like give them the chance to do what they dream. Like I brought like podcasts for my son Dylan. He loves YouTube. He loved watching Jelly Beans on YouTube. I gave him an opportunity to be on YouTube and start his own show. So just give them the opportunity to give it a chance, whatever they dream.
The other thing I want to speak to, though. Oh, go ahead, Catina. I'll wait.
No. You go.
Well, because we got bestie brain powers. My best friend already kind of hit it up with the digital divide, and so I just want to speak to like the idea that we can't pretend money doesn't matter, though, because it does. Yeah. And because it matters, I think that we have to empower our young people with words and not being afraid to ask. And so I'll come from a very personal place. We grew up very broke, economically disadvantaged, whatever term you want to use. But one thing my mama taught me very early was how to advocate for myself. So to use Morgan's example about space camp, mama ain't got it. But if you really want to go, how do we get it? So does that mean this young person starts mowing lawns and collecting money, that they take up a special collection at church, that we reach out to other people that can help fuel and fund whatever this young person needs to see if this is what I really want to do, or to have an experience that they otherwise might not be able to have. And so with that, I'll shout out Ollie Gates. So every year I came home from college, I wrote a letter and I sent it to business owners around the city. I just bought 3 books of stamps. I worked at the Kansas City Zoo and I mailed it out. I asked for money. I wasn't scared. I need money. And Ollie Gates didn't know me from a can of paint. That man sent me a check for $250. To me, that was a lot of money to give to somebody that you don't know. So when we talk about empowering them despite the divide, be it the digital divide, be it the economic gaps, we have to still empower them with tools that help them overcome those things.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was just going to jump in and say, so I I'll just put myself, out there. I got pregnant the night I graduated from high school. They gave the speech. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. I took it literally. Okay. So I had my son in February. I started college in August. We were struggling because I wanted to be the best parent I could be, but I also was a full-time student. So there were a lot of things that I could not afford as a single young parent that most people thought would be a statistic. Many of the things that your children want to participate in, those organizations and those institutions have money set aside, but they don't publicize it. Yeah. So when you walk in, you say, my kid wants to do X, Y, and Z. Who gonna pay for it? Because I can't. And you'd be surprised. My son has hosted TV shows. He's any and every opportunity you can think of, and he hated a lot of them because I made him do that. Right. He didn't even ask. I was like, you need to learn how to do this. Come on, let's go. We're going to figure it out. You need to learn how to swim. Okay, let's go. We're going to get a scholarship to the Y. You need to figure this out. Like, there were things that I pushed him, but there were also things that he wanted to do. And that wasn't the case every time. Maybe the financial aid check came on time, so I was able to pay. But other times, it was, no, I need to go in here, and I know that you guys have a benefactor or somebody. And sometimes the program didn't exist, but because I asked the question, then they created it, or at least they did for my type. And so, like Shanelle said, a closed mouth don't get fed. You have to advocate for yourself and your children. Now, I will tell you, though, for Black and brown people, we have to be realistic about this as well. Many of us were taught from very young ages, you don't ask for handouts. That makes you look weak, uncouth, all these things. So when that is drilled in your mind and in your head for years, you have to deconstruct that thing and say, no, that is not what it means. It means that as an oppressed person, there we go again, right? In this society, and other people benefiting off the work of me and my ancestors, that I don't have certain opportunities. Therefore, guess what? I need a little bit of reparations right here. So what you got? And don't be afraid. Like, now you owe this. Because other people's children have had access to these things because they benefited off of what they stole and took for other people. So, like, in being groups, this social media is amazing right now. There are tons of groups of parents that support and share activities and information. Join some groups. Tovah has one. Mashonda Mintz has one. Jamisha Wade has one. Like, we have tons of powerful, beautiful Black and brown people that are supporting parents. So even if you don't want to publicly go out and say, I need X, Y, and Z, build a community within some of these groups. Lean on them. They want you to. And reach out to some of us. We will find what you need, and we will support you because you're that important to us.
I love it. Deanna said the Latino Arts Foundation provides a no-cost art mentorship, including no-cost videography mentorship during the summer, fall, and spring. All supplies are paid for. They do this to support all, and we do so everyone in the community can see if this is something they like without having to spend money. They might not have. Or worse, never try because they never had the funds. So sorry, I just kind of mixed all of that, but you can read Deanna's comment there. And also, I just wanted to say too that that was a part of the reason why we created. So the Porterhouse KC, we started with these speaker series events where we were hosting a consummate professional to come in and teach a piece of business for free. We paid out of our pocket initially for the first two and a half years. Because we had food, we were right on the bus line, all these good things. We wanted to kind of check off the boxes that where folks didn't have access. We wanted to try to check off those boxes as much as possible, but we wanted to dive in a little deeper. And so the space that we got with the relationship with Chess Inc., we got a space right off of 31st Street, right over Truce. That's our whole intention with that, is because there's a lot of folks that have opportunity to play in business and test things out and jump in and out of that game. where people that come from where I come from don't really have the opportunity to play in business, to see things work, to tool things, to play with things. And so what we're wanting to do is create a platform or a space where folks can come in and actually have that ability to, with no overhead, come in and play with this space, right? And try to figure out if business is for them or test their products and services and things like that. That's a part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing too, is because of the lack of access, right? I get frustrated when people when they talk about pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and all this other stuff that these are conversations that go on, right? And a lot of folks don't even have the boots to pull up, right? Let alone the bootstraps, right? And so what our obligation is to, if we have these resources, our obligation is to provide these resources to the people that actually need them, regardless of what they look like, where they come from, or whatever the case may be, because we want to put those people in this space. That's why we wear T-shirts and hoodies and hats. We want people to come as they are, with no. We don't want people to feel ashamed of how they look or where they come from or any of that stuff, because all those things are barriers, and we want to try to eliminate as many barriers as possible. And so that's kind of the reason why we do it. So I get off my soapbox anyway.
And the fundamental was education too. So learn about business. Absolutely. All the resources of getting into business. Most definitely.
Absolutely. I think we can go, Sharon. I'm gonna go down because for the sake of time, we're actually pushing an hour and 30 minutes. So first of all, I want to thank Edgar, Catina, and Chanel, because they all said they were tired when they first started this this show. So I appreciate you guys sticking in there with us and rocking with us throughout this show, because I know that we had a long day, and to wrap up with this great intense conversation, not intense, but
pretty tough questions,
important conversations. So Chanel, I had a question about what the handoff looks like from high school to college, and why should young people look more intently on HBCUs as a viable education? But I think we kind of answered a lot of that through your conversation, and also the comments that we had in the section. I want to know from you all, how did you get into the space that you are in? And what were like one or two roadblocks that you kind of met or were faced with, for the folks that are watching, and how did you get through those roadblocks? I know we had probably a ton of roadblocks. Like Chanel said, a lot of these questions are loaded questions. But first of all, what put you in the space to feel like you can be a change agent? And then some of the roadblocks, and then how'd you get through them? Edgar, if you want to start for us.
That's the easiest question of the night. So I think that I've been destined to do this work, and I think I don't use these like words lightly. Like I think it's been ordained in a certain way, because all the pathways and everything has kind of led me to this space. For me, it was about going into schools, touring schools, seeing, being in schools where 100% of the student population was Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, however they choose to identify, and not seeing one educator of color in the building. And seeing that time and time again in cities where I wouldn't have expected that, places like Houston, places in California, places that the Latino community is absolutely there, and yet, not there in certain environments. And so that's how I got into the work, because at some point I felt like, I also looked around. One thing, I come from a nonprofit background, and so I don't believe necessarily in like creating duplicative services, or like reinventing the wheel if it's already there. So I looked around for specifically Latinx serving organizations that were doing the work around teacher representation. Found found some similar organizations on a national level, but nothing here locally. And I'm still looking. So if there's somebody doing the work out here locally or regionally, like, let me know. I'm happy to combine efforts, and I'm happy to, because we, I need the help, and I'm sure you do too. But the roadblocks are, like, the system is a roadblock. Funding is a roadblock. The stuff that you don't know is a roadblock. Navigating the politics of everything. Figuring out how to continue when people tell you no. How do you self-invest in this work? How do you pay child support, in my case, and do other stuff and still be able to invest in the work and continue the movement, right, that we're trying to create. And so I don't know how I've gotten through some of those barriers. I think part of it is that I've been uplifted by my community, and my community has been very supportive, and my community shifts, right? Like it's different people different in different days. It's the 30-minute conversations with Catina where she's like encouraging me, and I'm seeing her do her work, and I'm inspired by that. It's tuning into your program and seeing, like, man, y'all got a like dope background, and like you got an intro. Like, how do I do that, and how do I figure that out? It's by seeing, honestly, it's by seeing our educators, our community. As a Latino, as a son of immigrants, as also navigating the space and not seeing myself reflected in these conversations and in these spaces. Like, I know better, and so I choose to do better, right? And I choose to do something about it. And at the end of the day, it's not about me. It really comes down to the generations after us, because they're the ones that will benefit from the work that we do today. Or they're the ones that can also be harmed by the work that we do today. And so I take that responsibility very seriously. And I just don't know when to quit. So y'all were talking about being broke. My parents showed up to this country back in 1981, didn't speak the language. They were fleeing civil war in the home country. And I remember when they went through bankruptcy, I remember being like 5 or 6 on the phone with bill collectors, because I was the only one that spoke the language, right? And so like I was handling the bill collectors at that point in time. Didn't know that I was developing negotiating skills, and didn't know that I was asking about like how to negotiate timelines and contracts and all these other things. Had no idea. And so those skills have definitely benefited me. My parents are terrible with money. They've always been terrible with money. Like, no disrespect to them. I love them a lot, but they suck at money. And so I don't have that modeling for me. And so I've had to learn my hard lessons along the way, and we'll still get, you talking about money burns up through your pocket. Like, man, I give my entire check to my wife, and like, I don't see what happens, because like, I know myself better than that. Right. But I think I don't know when to stop. And, at the end of the day, like, money doesn't make everything move. It's certainly helpful. It certainly speeds things up sometimes. But, Adrienne Haynes, like, put me on game on this one time. She talked about like the different types of capital that there are. And so not only is there financial capital, there's social capital. There's all these other different types of ways that you can get things done. And so I am reminded of that when I don't have the financial capital to do things. Like, what else do I got in my pocket? What other assets do I have that I can rely on and leverage to then get the work done? Because at the end of the day, like, the work has to happen. And there's a hell of a huge community out there that is willing to support you if you're willing to acknowledge your dream and be vocal about it as well. And so there's also a lot of people out there who are like going to be haters, but as a good friend out there told me just yesterday, haters are your biggest fans. So
yeah,
go with that.
100%. Shanelle, what you think?
I would say I got to the space because of Mr. Carl Price with the Black Healthcare Coalition many years ago. My close friend Tamisha, her mom, Miss Williams, hey Mama Williams, she knew that my mom couldn't afford to send me on the Black Healthcare Coalition college tour, so she made sure that I went. And it was on that tour that I was able to really develop a love and a passion for HBCUs in general. But at 15 years old, I stepped off of that coach bus onto the campus of Fisk University, and I felt something. And when I tell the story, people think I'm being dramatic, but I'm not lying. I felt, I don't know if it was like an ancestral surge, but whatever it was, I felt something. And I knew in that moment that that was the institution that I would attend. And I did. I went there on a full scholarship, no money from my mama because she didn't have it. But with all the tools that she equipped me with, which was to understand that if I was going to have to work hard to get there. And so with that, my mom passed when I graduated from college. I graduated in May. She passed in August, very unexpectedly. And that catapulted me from what I thought was my dream career. Because my dream was really to just be Claire Huxtable. So I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to have a bunch of kids. Like that was my dream. And I was in law school at UMKC on my 4th day when my mom passed. And so I had to kind of reevaluate my life. And in doing that, what I realized is that my passion was not the idea that I could one day maybe send Black men to jail. That wasn't a passion for me. My passion was, how do I play my part in saving as many of them from that future as I can? And that's what I did. So I went into the Yo Center. Shout out to Clyde McQueen for the job at the Full Employment Council. And then that came full circle and taught me that my real gift was education and impacting young people. And so I did that. And then we started our HBCU college tour at Imagine Renaissance Academy. We did 3 of those before the school closed. And it was eye-opening for a lot of our students to go onto these campuses and see that these are colleges. And on these college campuses, you are the majority. And the fact that you are the majority puts you in a space to develop a level of self-security and self-sufficiency that when you come out into this world where you are taught that you are the minority, which is still debatable, you go into this space and you command your respect. So when I walk into a space, I don't have to say anything. In education, ironically, it's still not abnormal for me to go into a professional development and be the only Black person there. That's still not abnormal in 2020. But when it happens, I'm prepared because of what my HBCU taught me. They taught me the things that my high school didn't teach me, that my elementary school didn't teach me, and that my parents tried to teach me, but they were missing some pieces because they didn't have that experience. So that would be how I landed. My roadblocks have been myself, honestly. I am still working full time. I have a family to support. I would say my biggest roadblock is just myself. There are times that I just honestly am too tired, or maybe I do have the energy and I just don't feel like it. And so those have been the things to really stand in my way. When I think about the things that I've learned along the way, I would say the biggest piece of advice I could give to anybody who has a passion is to not let anybody kill it. Because people try, whether they realize it or not. Any naysayer is in essence trying to kill your passion. So don't let that happen. Instead, shift your thinking, shift your energy to focus on the people who support you. Always focus on the positive. And if you do that, whatever's supposed to come to fruition will. There's no such thing as failure when you walking in your purpose.
Right. Right on.
I love that.
Right on.
Sharon, you got to stop being a dream killer, man. I'm telling you. Chanel just said you got to stop that.
Actually, I pick up Dan a lot.
No,
And also, I wanted to bring up, my wife did not know about HBCUs until Stomp the Yard, which I was shocked. I was like, Lauren, how you don't know about HBCUs? So I also wanted to ask you, Chanel, with the HBCU walk-in billboard, is how do you go to all these schools and let these kids know about HBCUs? How are you doing that? I know you trying to get out there.
So it's not, it's kind of organic. Being an educator, I'm in a school. And so that's what's kind of made it possible. The plus now with being in KCPS is we have a program called AVID. And so what we're noticing is that program provides some leverage to provide kind of like a smaller scale HBCU specific focus for some students who are in a college readiness program. And so that's the part that has kind of been the focus right now. in terms of like communal events, I just got a core of people that rock with me, and that's really all it is. There's no formality to it. Trying to put the formality to it has been cumbersome because it's been really organic, and so that has been the part where I'm like, I'm in my own way, because the formality is what leads us to the mighty dollar, which I ain't got. So I have to do that part. But in terms of like curriculum and programming, it's being kind of like the hand to hand or the parallel me being in education already.
Right. Stuff.
I love that. Katina, what you think?
Boy, I was crying over here. I'm like, well, I'm an empath. When she talked about her experience of walking onto Fisk's campus and feeling something, like something just permeated my whole entire spirit in that moment. I will say, Shanelle, that you and I have lived a parallel life. I graduated from law school, and that September is when my father passed. And that was significant because he did not think that I would be able to achieve the goal of completing law school because I had my son. And that was devastating for him. So the fact that he was able to live and see that come to fruition was so special for me. What I would say, how I find myself here, I feel like I've lived multiple lifetimes in one. And that is because my path from K through law school was just that. I too, I wanted to be the lawyer. I don't know where that came from, that desire, what have you, because my father was an engineer. My mother retired from the government, and she did entrepreneurial things as well. But when I really think about it, I couldn't be any place but here. And that a big part of that is because of my mother. And she, if y'all anybody that knows my mother or knows me, is like, we are not the touchy-feely, type of people. But I have to really say that, because when it comes to community, when it comes to Black people, when it comes to assisting people in becoming the best that they can be, that started with her. That's what she dedicated her life to, first to her children and then the larger community. So I couldn't be any of what you see before you if she hadn't set the tone and modeled that. The only difference is that I was able to acquire additional skill sets along the way. God, in infinite wisdom, understood that I couldn't have the plan, and you couldn't just put me in that position. There had to be evolution of who I am. The girl, everyone used to call me Kay, that's my middle name, she had to die. Literally, I had a funeral for her and everything. That girl had to pass away so that I could walk into my womanhood, so that I actually could see how I could combine entrepreneurship, my legal experiences, in the 15 years that I spent in education to now impact the community in the way in which I do. One thing, my barrier too, Shanelle, I tell you, shared experience is amazing. When you said the only barrier or the major barrier was yourself, same here. My own thoughts, my own critique of who I am, what I should be. Now I understand where that came from. I'm very clear about that. Y'all know, y'all could probably say it if I say it, white supremacist culture, right? Living in this system shaped and formed me. Some of our grandparents and parents' notions of what it meant to be a woman or to navigate this world as a woman, they were doing the best they could with the tools they had at the time, but it did a disservice to many of us. So I had to deconstruct a lot of the foundational beliefs that existed about me, about Black women that looked like me, about big girls, about girls with locks, all of this stuff to get to where I am today. And it's an ever evolving process that I am so enjoying now, but it was been painful. And the last part of that, you said, what were the barriers? How do we find ourselves here? And what was the last part? Was that it?
That's it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You got it. Yeah.
And what do you advise anybody else? Yeah, we just gotta go for it, y'all. Walk in your purpose. Edgar said it, being ordained. All of us have a purpose. We do. And it will be revealed to us in different ways. But make sure your eyes are open so you can see it when it gives you when you get the flash, and then just zoom on through.
Do it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Hey, I want to make a comment too. Shanelle, I don't know how quick, like you're like so quick with the hand, because Catina said something and your hands were like already there. You throw the heart up real quick, or your hand is right here. I just want to, I just wanted to point out that's pretty.
Hey,
fly.
those are teacher moves. They're nonverbal cues.
Okay.
Teacher moves.
I got you. You represent. You're doing your thing. You represent. So really quick, I think first of all, again, I appreciate you three, and I know Tovah wish she could connect, but we appreciate you guys accepting and being open and vulnerable on this platform. I know that we collectively, Sharon and Morgan, are so empowered and get so much value from what you guys are doing and the conversation that we have. And I know our listeners and our viewers are getting value from what you're discussing and you're talking about and what you provided. So again, I want to thank you for all those gems that you provided us. What we normally do is do like a quick round table, like a round robin of, like closing thoughts and things like that. I know, like I said, we're pushing that hour and 45 minutes right now. And like I said, there's no time clock, but I know that, somebody on here might have to step away and do something and whatnot. So I want to respect everybody's time. So if you want to limit your closing thoughts to a couple minutes, I appreciate it. Again, you guys are phenomenal and wonderful. So who wants to start on their closing thoughts? Anybody?
I guess I could go ahead.
Go ahead, right?
Yeah, like I said, thank you, Catina. Thank you, Edgar, and thank you, Shanelle. From all your perspectives, man, it was amazing. Like, I have the greatest pride for HBCUs, and I love hearing people's experience about how they was in fraternities or bands, and they just have something that I couldn't experience because I went to UMKC and I was only Black student in some of the classes I took, but yeah, it's amazing to hear the stories. And joining the fraternity at UMKC, we got the experience to go to LU and all the other schools. It was dope, and I was like, man, I didn't even know about the experience until I went to those schools and joining the fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated. But yeah. And with Edgar, man, it's dope how you bring the community together. Just learning different cultures and just rocking it. And Catina, the entrepreneur, you consultant, and it's dope. So positive thoughts, and that's my ending closing thoughts. Thank you, guys.
Dope. Morgan, what you think? You've been quiet up there, soaking it all in.
I know I was kind of quiet too. It was dope.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Like, I really didn't think I was going to turn into a regular panelist. I thought I was just like making sure a thing happened every Wednesday that I could watch and learn from. Tried to get out of it for a while, but I've stopped now. This is home. Thank you all so much. I'm just going to echo what they said. We really spend a lot of time as a team talking about who we want on here. And it's so funny because I try to get Catina to teach at the library like every 3 or 4 months. And she was like, no to that, but Porterhouse KC, why am I not on
Hey,
yet?
Great call out. I appreciate that call out right there.
It was perfect. Closing thoughts for today. I'm going to out myself on this one. I don't have children. So I spent better than half of my life going, okay, cool, but it doesn't matter to me, and then go back to doing my dual income, no kids lifestyle. So the change that has happened now through my exposure to entrepreneurial education for K-12 is that, no, this is really critical. And and I think Edgar said it, you do this and you participate and you support and you be one of those small businesses that helps a student trying to do it. You join Chef Shanita because she says if we want more Black chefs, we have to grow and support more Black chefs. And that starts at a very young age. You do that even when you don't have children, and you happily pay those taxes to support the schools, even if you don't have children, because you're really trying to make it better for the people who come after you. And that takes a certain maturity that you don't have at 22. I really don't think you can think like that at 22. Thank you so much, all of you, for dedicating your lives when you so clearly could be doing something else, when you so clearly could have gone the route of the money. Thank you all so much for dedicating yourselves to this work, particularly at a time when large corporations just want to scoop up talented people. They just want to scoop them up. Thank you for dedicating yourselves to this, because that takes a certain gumption. It takes bravery to go the education route, to know that Shanelle's walking into a broken system every day. But she's still walking in there every day.
Yeah.
On a personal note, thank you to Catina for always putting the things on Facebook, because seeing her pivot meant that I knew pivots could happen. And every time she shares something, like she might post in a Facebook group 9 times a day. She might do it. You don't know. But she's doing it because you need to know. You need to stop pretending like the things aren't happening. So just on a personal note, Catina, thank you for continuing to do that, because it's so important. Just like the people in your life were so quick to point it out what you need to do to be better. I think you do that for a lot of people in Kansas City, and that's not a fun job every day. So, lady, thank you.
Yeah. And also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Also, I would like for all y'all to put your contact and information in the comments so people can reach you. Go ahead, Catina. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, thank you so much. I'm always honored. I'm humbled to be a part of anything that people think I have something of value to share. I hope that I always remain in that space because I never want to see myself higher than I am, because I've lived that piece of life already, and it is not helpful to myself or to anyone else. So I am truly thankful and grateful for any and every opportunity that I have. The closing thought to those, as we think about shifting education to make sure that our children who desire to be their own bosses, simply is that we need to make room for them. And if that means dismantling an entire system to make it happen, let's do that. And we can do that. And so be courageous, be thoughtful, and tear down walls. Parents, I think you have a unique opportunity right now, because you do not know what the fall is going to look like. Some schools will open, some may not. And so you have the opportunity to ask your children what they want to learn about, what they're interested in, and then making that really applicable to the life they live every single day. And if you don't know how to do that, ask Shanelle, ask Edgar, ask myself, or some other educator that can walk with you through that journey. And we will be more than happy to do it, because we do understand what the system does well and does not do well. And right now, it does not set up Black and brown and poor children for success.
Appreciate it. Edgar, what you think?
So I echo what Catina said in terms of I'm so appreciative for the opportunity to share space with you all and be in community with you all. So thank you for that. I actually I'm gonna brag a little bit. I had the privilege right before this opportunity to be in a book club that was led by Dr. Bettina Love. So we were talking about abolitionist teaching. She is one of the leaders in that work, and one of people doing the work and reminding us of what to do and how to do it well. And so something that she said that I'll share with you all is we don't have to go back to the way things were. And so we've gotten rid of a lot of stuff. Some states have gotten rid of standardized testing. Some states have gotten rid of all these other things, a lot of these barriers that were in place. We've learned that school computers work outside of the schools. We've learned a lot of other things. And so we don't have to go back to the old way of doing things. And we have an opportunity now to shift and to really center the voice that we need to center in these conversations. And so I share that with you. I also share one of my favorite statements that I've heard throughout COVID-19, which is joy is an act of resistance. And so if the only thing you can do is be joyful, then that is all that we need.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Shanelle?
I just want to close out by naming something that really kind of sits on me in my devotion to historically Black colleges and universities. And that is the misconception that if you didn't go to one, that you can't be a part of the work. And so at HBCU Walk and Billboard, we've actually named what it looks like to support the mission and vision of HBCUs. You're either a rookie, that's a current student at a historically Black college or university. You're an alum, you are a person who attended or graduated from an HBCU, or you're an ally. And an ally is a person who did not attend a historically Black college or university, but they still recognize their value and their necessity. And so naming that is important to me in the work that I do, because the last thing that we need is for people to feel like they can't support something simply because they weren't a part of it. That would be my closing remark, to let everybody know, whether you attended one or not, your support is necessary so that HBCUs can continue to exist. Many of them are in financial peril. A big part of that is due to reduced enrollment. And a big part of that, we won't go all the way into it, but in Catina's words, is white supremacist thinking. So with that being said, the more knowledge we can bring to our young people of all different backgrounds, that these institutions are not only viable, but they provide a very unique experience, then the more we can ensure that they stick around for centuries to come.
Dope.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, man, this was a crazy good conversation. I think we broke records, Sharon, more we went.
We did.
I don't think we
still it was
this long.
Necessary.
Yes, it was. It was 100%. 100%. We appreciate you guys for sharing this platform with us and inspiring some folks and being vulnerable, being open, because it means a lot. It all matters. I talk about this "it matters" movement because it does, right? Everything that we're talking about matters. Representation matters. Lack of diversity matters. Inspiring youth matter. Showing people how things are done matters. It all is relevant. And so without you guys talking about it, we don't get that exposure. So again, we appreciate you all. And yeah, so I don't think there's anything else to be said. So until next week.
Thank you everybody for joining.
Thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. Popping to go, now that you know. I'm up to some. Heaven just gave me the green light to go. I'm up to some. Girl, I've been knew that you've been down. I'm up to some. It's always you and your friends around. I see you got the new kin style, pretty in style. Been thinking though, they heard my name round, they don't think I know. Your girl in the back with the chase. I guess for the night we'll keep it all. See, that's a great distraction, but you know I'm on a mission. Y'all got 3 more to get practice, almost like I'm chasing chicken, cause I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. I'm up to some. Saying in life I make beats more. You can go to shit like a keyboard. Hold on. Like a paradigm. I keep running on like a marathon. Then you reach for your blacks like Farrakhan. But after that be the weed though. Told me that you wanna meet me, no. I don't wanna really be mean, no. But I've had been out on the East Coast. Fuck you for the green like CeeLo. All about the green like Shigo. I'm blowing up like CeeLo too. Guess Ben really got the keys though too. Like I'm up to something. I'm up to something. I'm up to something. I'm up to something. Baby, get right. They just gotta sit tight. They can have that long right. Grab that money on sight. Living made me get right. She just gotta sit tight. Grab that money on sight. Living made me get right. They just gotta sit tight. They can have that long right. Grab that money on sight. He always tell me.